Everybody has to vote again.
Sorry. I'm slow picking this up. Yeah.
Don't worry, your vote won't count twice.
Keep pressing. Wait a few more seconds. So do your care teams know during the year how they're doing? Real time in 24 hours? That's nice. Monthly? Periodically? Oh, not really. I just click on polling. I'll just go to the next slide. So 4% real time, 27 monthly, 50% periodically, and not really is 19%. So the group of you, people who are in the last group, 19% not really, I think that's the first piece to work on, that they kind of know how they're doing. Because it's, I've just recently worked on one of our health plans called the metrics, and they call me and ask me, you know, like, what are you doing for those patients? And I said, like, I don't even know how we're doing on those patients. And they sent me reports that are 6 months dated, like 6 months old. And then for me, I have difficulties sending out those patient lists because I'm creating a lot of work for our care teams that they have to go into the patient chart, review if it was actually being done or not. For me, to do that manually, that's a similar thing with the app. Do we have to do that manually, or do we have an automated process? Everything that I have to do manually, that is very limited. So, and it really quickly falls off the table because it just can't be done with the limited resources we all have. The real time would be nice. I always keep asking and discussing, can we get real-time data? Because I do think it makes a big difference. Like, even if you have like monthly reports, and we're in that category too, that 27%, we have monthly updated reports. I often get feedback from the care teams that they said they wish they would have more timely feedback because patients have been seen. And we also, what makes it more complicated now we're asking specialties to reach out to patients as well. So first we work primarily with primary care, bound to the primary care provider. And now we're asking more and more specialties to help reaching out to our patients, since they sometimes have like a more closer relationship with the patients than primary care. If they go more often to endocrinology, they might have a closer relationship with that provider than in primary care. The challenge is the more people you have reaching out, the easier it is to lose track if the patient has already been contacted. And we want to avoid to call the same patient like 5, 6 times, which happened that we call multiple times, and why are you calling me again? So there's this balance between outreach and then kind of like also kind of like coordinating it so we don't overdo it. So this is from our monthly dashboard, and you can't really read it from a distance, but I'm going to explain the principle. So we have different metrics listed on the left side. You see our different divisions, our Alameda, Camino, Palo Alto, Santa Cruz division. So different divisions see how they're performing. This has an interesting or nice effect that if divisions are falling behind on a monthly basis, they tend to be motivated to try to catch up. They also feel really motivated if they see that they're actually leading the pack and like doing better than the others. It's kind of like this positive reward to them. Okay, we're doing well, all the work is leading, it's getting us somewhere. You see our PAMF total score, how we're doing in terms of the percentiles. 50th percentile, 75th and 90th percentile. And then coming to the right-hand side, the orange fields, a little bit off orange here. We display the patients that we are away from the P90. So how many more patients do you need to reach to get to your target? Then we also display the trend, which is basically saying if you keep doing what you have been doing in the last month, where you expect it to be by the end of the year. And if you have a gap, it will be highlighted and say, like, for this one, if you just keep doing what you're doing, you will be falling short. So then we designate as a focus area. And in this case, no, I have to go to the line. It was like the LDL screening in 2014, where at one point we were kind of like just behind the target, and we made it a focus area, and we told everybody, you have to bring your patients in for the LDL screening. That has changed this year. I think you're all aware of that. I assume that the LDL screening is not on our dashboard anymore, but for that we have like a proportion of days covered for statins, medication-based measure. We have different platforms, so we have like other solutions as well. This is a quality dashboard for the departments and the providers. So the first one would show you how you're doing as a division and how we're, as a whole organization, PAMs are doing. This will show you how are you doing as a department. And we used this in the last year to identify departments who are kind of lagging behind. So the top 10 departments that needed support. And it was kind of like in my role to contact those departments, discuss with them what can we do to support you to kind of like do better. And connected to those lists are patient lists, which is for me kind of like the part of our work. Like we display the patients that need outreach or need the outreach to. We on the top you also see something that's called the birthday letter order list. We're sending out at the patient's birthday a letter with all the screenings that are due in that year. The idea behind that is like to level the load also for our care teams, because in the years before we always had this mad end of year rush. You kind of get into September, October, you see all the gaps, and then you try manically to reach out to all patients. So this is one system that tries to level it across the year, that we're always kind of reaching out to some patients.
How many of you are doing that birthday strategy?
Or something similar.
Kaiser in Hawaii does that. I think they do it in, Kaiser here does it for children.
Yeah. Now we have to do, we have a separate letter for immunizations, and actually there's another separate letter for HPV.
So we have in the room here, Liz, sorry to catch you off guard here, but Elizabeth Helms is the CEO of the California Chronic Care Coalition. Raise your hand. And she worked for years with multiple people creating something called the Be There campaign. And in all those years of hearing about the Be There campaign, I hadn't heard this strategy, but I think it's a really good one to incorporate.
Well, you've given me a really good idea on a campaign. We're running a campaign on something else right now. One of the issues that we're working on. It's the first time we've gone into the numbers. And we do tons of data. I mean, we're on data committees, you know, health plan data committees, state data committees, and so we know how important data is. And I'm wondering, after listening to you, is the campaign that we're working on is actually the best hotspotting campaign I've ever seen. And we're getting thousands of names of consumers right now from just on one issue that we're working on. And we're working with a PR firm out of DC that runs the big political campaigns. And I wonder if we could shift it to the next thing that we do is find out people in the community, because this goes into the community, who knows about blood pressure, how many are under control, where do they live. We could gather all that data, and now I know how to do it. So I'm just wondering how that would work into, and how could that information help the medical groups that are working out in the field. I think it might be a really cool project to get involved in, so thank you. I have another question for later, too.
Thank you. And just to add to this, like from my experience, we have, you know, we all have like fluctuation in staff. People leave, other people come in. So part of my work too is like go out to the care teams and offer to them. So like schedule meetings with me anytime, and we meet for 1 hour and we talk about our process. And I encounter again and again when I talk to our leadership and ask them, do you know, is this outreach being done? They all tell me, yeah, the care team's telling me they're working on it. And then I asked, so what does it mean? Oh, they're working on it, you know, so we're good. Okay, so I go out and say like, hey, make an appointment with me. I go to a site, and then our West Valley site the other day, and then I walk in, and then somebody's telling me, hey, I've got news for you. We kind of reached out to all of our Cigna patients. We're done. I was like, can you do me a favor, just define to me what means being done? And then she said, well, we left a voice message for everyone. I said, It's like, what do you think how many people will come in? And what do you think what our target is? So it's again and again, you have to repeat, like to have this ownership. It's not just that somebody assigns you a task and you do the task. And she told me this is why I was trained in it. And I said, like, well, for us, being done means you achieved the target. It means the patient came in and got the screening done.
So for your birthday letter, do you know what your yield is on that?
We never
having people engaged in driving the results compared to before.
Yeah, I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have numbers on that. Like I've heard like what people assume the effect will be, but we never really assessed in terms of like, actually, currently I'm working on that with our analysts to try to get those numbers.
Yeah, that's great. So
we try to clean it up because we get a lot of letters back where the address is incorrect.
well, so yeah, we started a pursuitless process of people that hadn't had an appointment in a while, didn't have one on the books, but had failed metrics. So it was an outreach, a telephone outreach to call them. We make about 1,500 phone calls a month, and we end up making about 350 appointments, half of which end up getting kept. And so the cost per metric that you fix is amazingly high, as it turns out. And so the question is that the other yield from this is that there are a bunch of people that we find that actually have left the group, and we get them out of our denominator, so that might be the most cost-effective part of it.
We have that feedback frequently, actually, that we provide lists, and then I'm being told, I haven't seen that patient since 2 years. It's definitely part of that work.
From a patient standpoint, if I haven't seen my doctor for 2 years, I think that's a good thing.
Well, it depends. Some haven't been seen, but some are not with us anymore. So they might have left, but they didn't incur an encounter or a claim from somewhere. So the last claim they had was from us. So they're still attributed to us.
So one thing in your birthday letter, just a suggestion, if you've left us for somebody else, please call this number or email us, and we'll take you off and stop bothering you.
Actually,
So
the funny part is, like, we should tell them they need to call their health plan, because we're getting the monthly eligibility files, and if they don't correct it, the patient will be put on our.
we take it upon ourselves to call the health plan.
Yeah,
We do.
I'm all with you, actually.
Yeah.
That's I want to do that since a long time, but it's a process we do not have in place so that we actually can inform the healthcare.
Quick question, how does this dashboard interfaces with the electronic medical record at the care team center, if it does? And if it doesn't?
It does not, no. It's like it's a separate platform, and so they don't have it integrated in our medical record.
Because if it does, then it could become a to-do list at the care center for each patient, and then that could translate into
So working with Epic, it's very challenging, as we all know, to integrate something into Epic. It's always our solution to have as much as possible at the point of care, but that system lives outside. What we're working on, if you go to the provider level, you can really see this as a department view, and you click on the measure, you will get a patient list, and we try to incorporate that. So like from this point, it's directly actionable. If you stay at this level and show them how they're doing, they still don't know who they can reach out to. So we try to underline with like patients that are then listed as not being reached out to yet. Another piece of our visibility that we started to do, we put like, I talked about that we did since a while, one-pagers every month, and at one point we decided, let's put this together in a manual. So like, we have now a manual in place, it has about like 90 plus pages, and it just summarizes all the different quality metrics and explains like what needs to be done. And that has been really helpful for our care teams too, since when I go there, I can see that they have one laying around somewhere, and then I can flip quickly to the measure. Especially if it would have a question, for example, for the blood pressure, what is our target? Is it 140 over 90? Is it 150 over 90? So they can go in the manual and see like what we're currently implementing. So it's similar to the pocket card, yeah. This is unfortunately a bit thicker. It's a bigger guide. You can't really put it in your pocket. That is this slide is about our Gemba box, so we try to make it visible. We try to have a visual display somewhere how we're doing. This works better. Or we have made the experience, it works really well if you display what you're working on and can discuss like in a few sentences what your goal is and what your issues are.
I think the key there is leadership.
Yeah. And the leadership going to the care sites and discussing with them how they're doing, if they have any roadblocks. So the care teams knowing that it's important to the leadership and they ask about it. It always amps it up on the list of to-dos. One element I personally really like, and I wanted to mention it here, is like time trend charts, especially SPC charts. So
SPC?
Statistical process control charts. So a lot of our reports show how you're currently doing, but it doesn't tell you how you have been doing over time. So I made the experience, if you display over time and you show how you're improving, and you have your target and you see that last gap, but you see all the work you already did before, it's very motivating to close the last gap. It's almost like a reminder when I look at my kitchen, I already did all that work, I just need a little bit more. And then I kind of like, I'm there, like my goal.
Just a quick question. Do you share data at the local level in terms of individual performance on measures by doctors unblinded?
The departments could do that, but I think usually it doesn't happen. Like what we do communicate is like on the department level, so they would see how the different care teams are doing, but not necessarily not on the individual provider level. It's not that it's explicitly hidden or that we don't want to be transparent. It's more like how the system is set up. It's hard to get there, that view to compare individual providers. But you can do that as if you're the department head and that's your intention. You want to talk with your team about this, they can get that data.
They can get the data,
Yeah.
they can request it and then be able to.
Yeah, the department heads have it.
Asking, do you know if people have done that?
Yeah.
Well, they
not all department heads, but it has been done.
So, Jose, our reports, we have about 34 things on our sheet for primary care. They're available and they're updated nightly, and they're available to everybody for everybody to look at everybody else's stuff. So it drives performance there because it's one of us for
I agree. And it's our goal too to be more and more transparent. I think what's holding us back is that our systems we have in place and to develop them are often not developing fast enough with our ideals. So so if we have so many different requests to improve the reporting we have in place. In the beginning of the year we had a workshop and we narrowed it down with our leadership to 15 analytic requests, and then we met with the analytic team. And then they told us, so based on our other priorities and our resources, we can pick 2. So okay, so we agree on the most important 2 changes, but so it's a little bit finding your piece with like the system is not perfect, but you try to improve it and you work with what you got.
So Stefan, how many of your providers, what percentage of your providers have EHR? And do you collect the data via the EHR transmission?
I actually don't know the exact percentage, but most of our providers. But I can tell you like that number.
So,
I would say almost all of them.
so your data are coming from their EHR?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Palo Alto's pretty 100% penetrated to all the providers that are required to participate in the EHR.
So these are employed under the foundation model, is that correct?
The medical group. So we have the Palo Alto Foundation and we have the medical group. So there are the medical group are.
All of them. Akin to the Sutter Medical Group up here is all of the providers. You're required. You cannot practice medical groups and not be on the EHR. And the patients are on the EHR, so if you want to take care of the patient, you got to come here.
You can't document outside of that.
You can't document outside.
Do you use the patient portal to communicate with your patients?
Yeah, about 75% of our patients are patient oriented. Now, please don't ask me about effectiveness of messages sent to the patient portal. Not sure. Third step, general outreach strategy and tactics. I just want to highlight a few points that I feel were important for our work. So, and what we communicate over and over to our care teams, start early. So start in January, don't start in September or October. Every patient counts, so it's not about that you tell me, yes, I'm working on it. And you might have the feeling you did a lot. Again, I have to go back to my kitchen model. When my wife would ask me, are you working on it? I would say, yes, I did. And it was a lot of work. I can tell you about it. She doesn't want to hear that. But did I reach every patient? Did I finish it to the end? No. But if somebody asked me in general, did you work on it? Yes, absolutely. So we try to have this message. We really have to make an effort to reach every single patient. And yeah, we try to encourage our specialties to help. I'm sending out also patient lists to our specialties and ask them to support our outreach. I got responses in the past where they said, like, oh, we don't do that. And I said, every email like, oh, yeah, I know, but would you be open to do it? You know, so this is kind of new, and this is kind of like a pilot. Would you be open to be part of this pilot? Or would you be open to discuss it with your care team? Our general approach is very kind of like, we're happy with whatever you can do. We don't demand or say like you have to do this, but we encourage them. We say it really would help us, and we think like you might have a better relationship to this patient than, especially if I call. I did calls to patients. They ask me, who are you? You know, is it even legitimate? You know, I mean, anybody could make that call. But if they know the person from their interaction, it's a completely different call. So our tactics, visibility, monthly performance updates, we have priorities for every month, we have a quality metrics calendar that varies a bit about different divisions have their own calendar. Provide monthly one-pagers, this is like job aids, scripts, so like all the information we provide, how can you do it? It's really detailed, so it's not just that you describe the measure, so we also provide a job aid, how can this be done? So if you go into Epic, where do you need to go? Our a record, a script, if you call the patient, how can you word it? We also provide scripts for our providers if they want to address something. So we really try to show the whole process and give them an example how they can do it. They don't need to do it that way, but we want to show them one way it can be done. And then visit care teams at their site. I think personally, again, that's really important. Also, like that they think that they know you and see you and meet you in person. If you have like personal relationships with them, you know, most of my work is through email. It would be possible that nobody ever sees me in person, but it makes a big difference, you know, if you make the effort to go see them and talk to them in person and they know you. In the beginning, when I started this role, I got multiple messages indirectly forwarded to me, providers asking, because I just signed with my first name, Stefan, and quality department, and they asked, who's Stefan? You know, why is he contacting me? And one element that you can see here is this continuous engagement. So whatever you do, that you have something to keep the momentum going every month. And if we stop doing this, I always feel it's dropping down a little bit. They still keep working on it, but not as much as we need to. We have like different methods to reach out. So this is like specifically for our outreach process. You see like a screenshot here for our health maintenance reminders. So if you have our electronic medical record, the providers will get like a reminder or alert for whatever screening is due, including A1C, LDL. And now our next question to you. Which quality outreach reminder approach is not used at PAM?
Carla.
Yeah, please tell.
It's okay.
Okay,
Let's go.
Let's go. Thank you again. Have a few seconds. Look at your responses. One more time. So what are we not doing? Automated calls, 23%, personal calls from primary care, 31%, personal call from medical record, 23%. It's pretty across the board, pretty even. Notifications via health apps, smartphones, smartwatches, and tablets. When I thought about this talk and I tried to tell you like an interesting story, I thought like I wish I could tell you about like an innovative app we have in place or some kind of IT solution. It's like incredibly we don't. So all we do is like personal engagement. So it's a lot of, it's the top three. We have automated phone calls, but not many. But we use it too. But most importantly, we use like personal calls from care teams. They're not on here listed, but this is our medical assistants or PSR calling the patients. And if we need to close gaps, we ask our primary care providers, and we have also our medical directors who sometimes go to the phone and call the patient and encourage them to come in. So it's, the challenge of that is if you have a high volume and you have like more and less high volume departments, it's difficult to make all those calls. But you can manage it if you break it down, if you do start early over the whole year and you designate people who make those phone calls during the year. It gets unmanageable, like if you wait until the end of the year and then see, okay, let's try to reach those 300 patients. That's a lot of calls.
I was thinking if any system's going to use a smartwatch, it would be Palo Alto Medical Foundation. If any system's going to start using smartwatches, I was a fellow at Stanford and I used to have Silicon Valley engineers bring in multipolar,
Can you
at that
speak
time,
up, Neil?
graphs.
Neil, can you speak up?
Can you give the man a microphone?
I was just saying that I think a lot of us in the room are thinking if anyone's going to have a smart watch application, it would be Palo Alto Medical Foundation, the heart of Silicon Valley. And I was a fellow at Stanford many years ago, well before smart watches and the like, but the patients that you would see at Stanford would come in with multicolored graphs of their cholesterol, blood pressure tracked forward. So I think it is a very serious, let's see what can be done with social media and devices. So hopefully you can come back and tell us how those work.
And I can say we have a high interest in that, and we have pilot projects, but talking about like 2014 and how did we get where we were, how did we achieve the Platinum Award, that was not a part of it, it was just the legwork, basically. So we also have, I mentioned inpatient outreach, we have the patient portals, we also have the birthday letters, our snail mail. Let's move on. In terms of effectiveness, I wish those would be numbers based on evidence, but I wanted to give you some numbers from our expectation or assumptions. What is how effective are different outreach methods? I think, and again, this is assumptions. Thank you for the reminder. 5 more minutes. Snail mail, mail letters, we expect one to reach 10% of our patients. I excluded automated phone calls because we only use this for a few measures. The personal calls for medical staff, primary care providers, and medical directors are most effective. We do most frequently the calls for medical staff, but to close those last gaps that really bring you into the top 10 range and really to the high performers, is that if you have the primary care providers or a doctor making that call and encouraging a patient who hasn't come in since 2 years and tell them it's really important that you get this done.
How many of you all do that? Can you raise hands and we'll give you some more time.
Primary care providers call.
Yeah, doctors or medical directors calling the patients.
I only call patients about
So it's kind of a rare thing.
Okay.
Kristen?
Sometimes.
Yeah, well, I can tell you Diablo Creek does it, so.
We used to do a lot of in-reach, and we pester patients to come in, and or we send emails. So we don't have a lot of broad-based primary care providers calling for a lot of things.
I think it might be similar to us because it's not our core, so like the core, it's the care teams calling. It's
your medical assistant calling on your behalf.
right, and for the last patient, so usually in November, when we see in our trends that you're struggling with something or there's still a gap, then we're asking providers. We can look at the providers who still have multiple patients missing, and we contact the provider and say, like, can you call this?
So what we do is if it's been ineffective for the call centers to call and our medical staff to call, then it might get done to the primary care doctor, but it's not the first line.
The same,
Yeah.
so it's the last step in the line. Like if everything else fails, so to speak, then we ask our providers.
And I tell them I won't refill their normal until they get there.
Be there tomorrow. Be there tomorrow.
Yeah, be there tomorrow, they usually.
Be there in 5 minutes.
So-
They're there within 15 minutes.
Since I also have a background in organizational psychology, I wanted to talk a little bit about engagement and motivation, since I think it's an important piece. We focus a lot on the reporting, but we also need to motivate. Oh, sorry, one more question.
I just wanted on the outreach to compliment you. I love what you're doing. When you make the calls or you have automated calls, are they multilingual as well?
That's a good question. The automated call is in English, so that's a good point. That would be more effective if it would be. In terms of our care teams, I cannot say for sure. I know that we have like staff with capacity to speak multiple languages, but I cannot tell you for certain.
Because that would
Right.
make a big difference with the patient.
No, I agree. Good, thank you. Another quote.
This is my favorite slide of the whole set.
We live in the real world? No, we don't. And I like this slide because, we all create, like our environment and how we perceive it. A lot happens in our minds, and when I work on our quality metrics, and then I often see like where our gaps are, and I think like, oh my God, how can we do so badly? Like if I just focus on what we haven't achieved, but also you can also look at what you already did achieve. And so I always want to encourage, in terms for outreach, encourage our care teams to look a little bit differently at the patient list. I've been at sites and I've walked around and I handed a patient list. And one care team member told me, after I bought the third patient list, I said, like, I think I'm done with this one. And I said, and she told me, well, I hope you don't mind, but I hope you don't come back tomorrow. And I think she just wanted to make a joke. She wanted to be kind of like funny in that moment. But for me, it made me think, how is it perceived if I hand them patient lists? Do they perceive it just, it's a lot of work? It's like something I have to do. So we try to discuss patient stories with them. We focus on them, focus on the meaning of what we're doing and that you can save lives with what you're doing. It's not about, here's a stack of patients, so like every single patient you're reaching out to, you literally can save lives. And I think everybody benefits from that reminder. That's something I actually took from our medical director who started, I think, in a motivational speech with me. He basically said, like, what you do, your outreach, you can save lives. Okay, that got stuck in my head, and I thought, let me share that with our care teams and remind them every patient they can bring in, it can save lives. This is one patient story from one of our medical directors. She said, like, I saw a patient from a different division for an office visit. His complaint was unrelated to diabetes or hypertension. I noticed that he was overdue for appropriate labs and stressed the importance of doing them the same day. He had moderate renal insufficiency. And the patient was thankful that this was